In today's video, I want to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I think you'll find super interesting as well, because a lot of viewers are wondering, should they retire or at least think about retiring outside of the United States? So let's jump in and talk about it. First, I was a financial advisor for over 20 years before I retired, and importantly, I've also been to over 70 different countries, and in many of these countries spent 2, 3, 4 weeks or more. So I've been very fortunate. Until I was 50, I was not well traveled. But after I turned 50, I did have the opportunity to travel. And I want to share with you what I learned. And first off, there's a couple gotchas that are really important that you're aware of. And for that, we're going to wait to the end of the video. But I want to start off with how many people actually move in retirement at all. So I want to start off with this chart by Vanguard that shows you what percent of people move by age. And you can see young people, 20 to 30 years old. Over a fourth of them are moving in any given year. And I think a lot of that is because they're starting their life outside of their parents' home. And then as we get older, one of the things you can see with this chart is it continually goes down all the way until 80 years old. So fewer and fewer of us are moving. And then once we hit 80, then it goes back up by a little bit. And that's probably people moving into facilities to help with healthcare needs, things like that. So very few of us move to begin with. And then how many of us are going to move outside of our county, outside of our state, or even outside of the country? So let's look at that. Again, this is by Vanguard, so thank you. Within the county, among the people that move that are over 60 years old, 35% moved within their county. Another 42% actually changed counties, but they stayed in their state. Another 20% moved outside of the state. But look at the last one. It's 4% of people. Just 4% of people moved abroad. Now, this was 2019. I don't know what the latest numbers are, but it is something that's very doable and very possible for us. So let's go for a little walk here and let's talk about it. So, for me, I think for many Americans, as I said, I've been able to travel. There are these expat communities all over the world. And one of the biggest reasons to move is you can get a lot more for your dollar in a lot of parts of the world. In South America, in Southeast Asia, those are two of the big ones that Americans move to. But, a lot of countries are less expensive than in the U.S. In some countries, you can qualify for free healthcare just by being there. In other countries, you've got to buy private insurance, but it's much more affordable in the U.S. And then other places, some expats say, I'm just going to self-insure, which obviously you want to be careful. A little less risky in some countries because the cost of things are dramatically lower from a healthcare standpoint. But super important, look at your Medicare and see if it covers you while you are traveling. It's decisions like this that are really important. In some situations, Medicare might cover you depending, and there's all kinds of restrictions and caveats on this. It's one of the reasons that it's important for all of us every year to look at our Medicare plan and make sure that we're on the right plan for us. And it's why I'm proud to partner with today's sponsor on this video, which is Chapter. They're a Medicare advisor, and importantly, not only are they experts on Medicare, but their services are free to you and I. So there's really no reason to not work with a Medicare advisor to make sure you're on the best plan for you each and every year. Candidly, the reason I agreed to partner with Chapter, I think they're experts in what they do. And importantly, I think they've set up their company where they're unbiased as possible to give you the advice that's best for you. I want whoever you talk to, I want their expertise to benefit you, not them. And I believe Chapter is that type of firm. So as I record this, open enrollment period is about to start in the United States. It runs October 15th to December 7th. Chapter's about to get busy. A lot of companies are about to get busy. Pro tip, call this number here. You can also use the link below. And thank you, Chapter, for sponsoring this video. Okay, so we talked about healthcare. The other thing is, how good are you at learning languages? That can be a big obstacle for a lot of people. Fortunately, I'm somewhat fluent in Spanish, so going to South America was easy. I don't speak any Asian languages, so when I went to Southeast Asia, I did not have that advantage. I can tell you in a lot of countries, particularly in the bigger cities, there are a lot of people that speak English very well, so it was not an issue. And the other thing is technology is about to make this much easier for us. I'm about to do a review of some headsets, earbuds, that actually translate live for us in our language. So in 15 or 16 different languages, and I'll hear English in our ear. So watch for future videos on that. But the language can be a big thing. And then culturally, and this is what I find fascinating, is just, our DNA. I'm 6 foot tall. I have blue eyes. I am follically challenged, you might say. Those are my genetics, and I call that my hardware. But my software, how I react to things, is largely influenced by my culture. Born and raised in the United States, born in Northeast Ohio, and lived out west for most of my adult life. So that influences the way I do things and the way I see things. And in the United States, we have a couple cultural norms, right? In a lot of cases, he with the most toys wins in the United States culture. Better, faster, cheaper. This is a tough country. I think there's a lot of pressure on employees here. And live free or die, right? Those are some of the main core tenets of U.S. culture. And if you go other places, like if you go to the Scandinavian countries, if you go to Denmark, Sweden, Norway, their culture is very similar to each of those countries. Is a little different, but they essentially are close to we are all equal. And that's a very different culture than what we have. So it's not just the language, but it's the culture. And then it's the food. I love the food in a foreign country, but some people are going to miss their steak and potatoes. So should you move to a foreign country? Should you retire outside of the U.S.? I think it's definitely worthwhile looking into. I think it's worthwhile trying out. Maybe if you're currently working, you can work remotely for 2 weeks and take 2 weeks of vacation, or, maybe you can get 4 weeks of vacation, but try to live there for an extended period of time so it doesn't feel like a vacation. So it feels like you are a local in a foreign land. That's the verbiage that I use. And then really come up with your financial plan and say, how would this impact things? Could you retire 5 years earlier? What would that mean for your retirement plan? Or maybe you live remotely for 3 or 6 months out of the year if you're in a place where maybe you could rent out your house. And how would those numbers play out for you? And I think we all should have a financial plan so we can see how these things work for us. The gold standard is to work with a financial advisor. If you want to do it yourself, I understand that. You've spent 20, 30, 40 years building your net worth, and a lot of us want to control the plan that dictates how we spend that money. If that's you, use software designed for you. The software that I like is called Bolden. Used to be called New Retirement. You can sign up for Bolden at the link here or in the link in the description. You'll be supporting the channel because I am an affiliate. And if you like this video, a close cousin to this one is helping you think about when's the right time for you to retire. And it's why I made this video here. Why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. I'll see you in that video. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.